Hey listeners, it's time for a Red Star daily update. We've got 2 under our belt, time for the 3rd one this growing season. My pleasure to have Brody and Ryan and Tom here, all from Red Star. We know, Ryan, you're the boss, and you've got a great team here that's been providing us some awesome tips this spring. Let's jump into what we might be scouting for as we get into the fields. Do you want to take that, or do you want to pass it off to one of the guys?
I can start with it. So as we're looking cold, wet soils, we got to really start looking at our white mold, tar spot, your early season fungicides that they're going to affect us this year, probably more than ever. So, yeah.
That's great. Tom, as you're thinking about the areas that have started off the growing season much differently than we've seen in the past, what do we need to be looking for?
You know, having been to several of Fred Belo's meetings over the last 15 years, I think of one, the weather, stupid, and the weather's been crazy this year, and 2 is nitrogen. You know, as we look at corn and soybeans, actually beans use more nitrogen than corn, but we got to watch what's going on with nitrogen right now. You know, there's a lot of nitrogen in Iowa specifically that gets put on the fall time or early spring. I think that's definitely something we got to watch here as we go forward.
That's right. And we're probably going to see some different diseases than what we've seen in the past due to the environment we've been in, Brody. So what are going to be some focuses?
Well, let's back up. You know, we talked about, you know, the cooler, wetter conditions, you know, creating pre-existing conditions, right? And so what are those pre-existing conditions then lead to in susceptibility? And, you know, tar spot we've talked about and seen, and, you know, our neighbors to the east have experienced some severe issues over the last 2, 3, 4 years as it continues to move west across the Corn Belt. And, you know, if we continue to stay wet, I would suspect that we're going to see that early. And so, you know, there's 2 ways to really combat that. You know, part of it might be we're past the point of return on some of this. And so we do just need to, you know, spray a fungicide. But the thing is, when you spray a fungicide, you close those stomatas. And your stomatas are your conductants to transpiration. And we've talked numerous times about transpiration, what drives everything. There's a very good chart that Iowa State and one of their ICM newsletters ties yield to transpiration. Higher amount of transpiration, higher the yield. It's a very, very tight correlation. So we don't want to affect that transpiration either. And so can we improve the overall resistance to plant diseases earlier on in the growing season, even up to this point where we're at now with the use of calcium silicates that help fortify that plant cell wall that doesn't allow the fungus, or, you know, the actual fungus to be able to penetrate the cell wall. Given like a fungicidal static, not saying it's going to give you control, it's just giving you better nutrition. And the reason that we want to wait until after tassel to spray fungicide is because our transpiration rates naturally drop. Because that plant is now translocating nutrients from inside the plant into grain fill instead of thinking it needs to bring up nutrition to be able to create more carbohydrate, store in the stock, and then put that into grain fill.
I mean, when fungicides first come about 20 plus years ago, you know, one of them actually, you know, coined the phrase plant health, and they looked at the fungicide not because we had a ton of disease at that time, but because of what it did physiologically to the plant. You know, it helped it reduce stress. You know, it lowered just that overall stress for that plant. Well, we can do that with plant nutrition products, right? Like we're talking about. We've got products like SunFed. We've got products like Red Shield. We've got products like Elevate Plus that we can come in and help keep that plant healthy. Now, as you know, diseases like tar spot and gray leaf spot come in, obviously we can't control those diseases nutritionally. That's when you come in and spray that fungicide. But, you know, the transpiration is such a big thing this year, Brody, because of all the moisture we have. We've just got to get it in the plant and out of the leaf. And so, yes, if you put a fungicide on too soon, you can sort of, you know, hurt that transpiration to where things can start to get bottlenecked up in that plant. So the plant health side of that is one thing. The disease side is another. Nutritionally, let's keep that plant healthy. Let's keep it driving towards high yield, and then let's come in late there, you know, right. R1, R2, and hit it with that fungicide.
Yep. And you know, that's going to lead into other things that we can do from a nutritional standpoint with amino acids, polypeptides, with the recess product to be able to slow respiration as well. and help reallocate and translocate nutrients from the stock to the sink source, which is the ear at that point.
Yeah,
So,
I look at it, Tanner, and I say we just really have got to watch the rest of the growing season. You know, we got to do our tissue testing. We got to continue to watch how much rain are we continuing to get, because that's probably going to help drive what you're going to do. You know, if we stay wet, man, I'm going to go in there with, 2 to 3 quarts of Elevate Plus and Novastar, and that's just going to be a big win for that corn plant, because it needs nitrogen, it needs potash, and it needs those key amino acids, right, to keep those processes going. You know, if we stay cloudy, which we've had a lot of cloudy days, boom, we're going to hit it with what?
Sun-fed.
Sun-fed. So again, I think it's one of those things where there's no cookie cutter approach.
Right.
And that's one of the things I really like about our REDSTAR team, is that we're continuing to watch what's going on with the weather. We're evaluating the crop all the time. And we've got a very broad portfolio of products that have been designed to sort of help each specific thing that takes place in that crop. So we can, hopefully address an issue or situation when it arises.
Well, Ryan, I'm looking at the fuel that we've got on the table here, and I'm excited to try some of this beer. But tell me what this is that everybody's been seeing sitting in front of us in the camera.
This is our house beer, Red Light Lager. So I bring the brains. This is my baby. So.
That's perfect. Well, if our listeners are curious about not only the advice that your team can give or what's sitting in front of us here on the table, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Sure. Look us up on Facebook, Twitter, RedStarNE.com or RedStarBranded.com.
All right. Thanks again for another great tip, guys.
thank you.
Thanks, Tanner.